It's your boy Sam Duke.
It's your boy Warren P.
It's your man Tim McHale.
And you are listening to another great episode of
You good, bruh? Damn, I messed it up again. My bad.
No, you did not actually. You were on, bro. You were actually on, man. Trust yourself, okay? Keep your confidence up.
I want us to be harmonized like that one movie with Morgan Freeman with the brother singing in the school.
Okay, well, real quick, streaming, even though you may think you're not harmonized, you're on point because afterwards it syncs together. Anyway, this episode, I'm going to dedicate this episode to a young bruh. You know, I recently went to a funeral for this young bruh. He died unexpectedly while playing basketball. G-Day Lawal. He was only 30 years old, and so I just wanted to dedicate that to him, dedicate this episode to him, and we're gonna go in from here really quick. Today we are talking about mental health versus accountability. Yes, we have gotten around to it. This is something some people have asked me about, and I've never really wanted to, not necessarily didn't want to do an episode about it, but at the same time, we were trying to keep the focus on mental health and, make sure that we're being advocates for it and not necessarily, challengers of mental health. But at the same time, I think it's good to have these type of conversations, right? It's good to, make sure that we're addressing these type of issues. So in today's society, I think mental health is clearly something that, it's become a buzzword. It's what everybody wants to talk about. It is something that people are paying attention to. And, and at this point, I've seen some spaces in society where it potentially could be overly used. Am I the only one? Am I fair with that assumption or that
Nah, you
putting
being
that out
nice.
there?
I'll wait.
No, hey man, look, go ahead and speak your mind, brother.
What I've been seeing lately, not lately, for the past couple of years, to be honest, is people are, I would say, weaponizing mental health or utilizing it as an excuse as opposed to being accountable for their actions. There is to me, now mind you, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, but I believe there is a difference between mental health affecting your livelihood versus somebody making a bad decision. And sometimes I feel, now it can be both. Don't get me wrong, it can be both. But I give this example I was sharing with the brothers earlier. The way, let me give the backstory. Because what I've been seeing is, okay, take some of the documentaries, take some of the shows that I've been seeing. It's people that are committing heinous acts, which however you say it. And people will give a backstory and will say, well, such and such went through this. And so, let's use R. Kelly, the monster. This man was sexually abusing young women. Everybody knows that's wrong. I have seen people use him being sexually abused at a younger age kind of as an excuse for him doing it to other women. Now, to me, I feel that I get it, but at the same time, it shouldn't be excusable. It shouldn't be taken to a place to whereas we feel sorry for him because he did it to other people. And I'm seeing those things in different areas of life. Now, that is an extreme. Not saying what happened to those people is horrendous, but just little things in life. I've actually seen a brother cheat on his woman and say, well, my mental health was being affected. So I made decisions that I'm not too proud of, but I really want my lady back, but she just has to understand that, mentally I just wasn't all the way there. And I saw some people come to this brother's men and women, which surprised me, come to this brother's aid and be like, well, I get it. I've made some decisions in some terrible places. And to me, I feel as if we're absolving the victim of somebody else's, you know, crimes and trying to give people passes in regards to under the premise of it being a mental health issue as opposed to somebody just doing something terrible. And they should suffer the consequences of their actions as opposed to, them being excused for it. Like I'm watching the Jeffrey Dahmer thing right now.
Mhm.
The only reason I'm going to finish it is because my wife wants to watch it. But to me, I'm disgusted in the first 3 episodes because it's like this man was killing innocent people,
Right.
and they're trying to tell a story of what he went through growing up and basically humanizing this man to make it seem as if, oh man, he had a terrible life, so we should be understanding of the things that he did. No, this motherfucker's a monster. There's so many families out here who are still going through trauma because of his actions. And we have programs out here that are trying to humanize these people and push an agenda to whereas I just can't rock with. And I'm sorry I've been talking for forever, but
No,
these
I mean, I want you to get it all out because
nah,
I
because
want
I
to make
mean
sure I understand.
I'm heavy on accountability. Like I'm heavy
Yeah,
on
but
accountability.
but even that heaviness can be a space that we could talk about emotional health, right? The
Yeah.
level of, because what I hear is what I know versus what I hear. What I know is, just going from the Dahmer backwards. Dahmer had consequences. He was going to serve 900 years in jail. He was going to die in jail. No way around it. And he wasn't going to be absolved of that responsibility of being in jail outside of death itself, right?
Yeah.
To understand how a baby can be born, an innocent baby boy can be born and turned into a monster, is definitely valuable for the world to understand. Because as a parent and knowing other parents, I will tell you, most of us don't know what the hell we're doing. We're just borrowing from what we experienced and what we've observed around the world, and we hope that our mix of you know um, genetics plus environment produces an asset to society and not a liability. So if you need to know what to do, here's a lesson in what not to do. So there's still value in that life being displayed the way it has, so that I, as a father, know what not to do versus what to
Yeah.
do. And I think that that's what the value is. It's not, there's nothing that can make him less of a monster to me. If anything, the this series really encapsulates what type of sociopath he is and sadist he really is. And then I think that that's the thing, is like I'm looking at it from my eyes, trained or whatever, and I'm
Hmm.
saying, man, look at the impact of these families. Look at how he just kind of joked about it. He thought it was, the world. He was that narcissistic. He thought you know, when he had fans, he was just entertain himself by pranking prisoners. You know what I mean? And hardened criminals, and he poked, basically poking the bear. That was his entertainment. So to me, it showed me how sick he really was.
Hmm.
Because no rational person would do that, and definitely not the bears that he was poking anyway.
Yeah.
It's
I've read of him.
okay, so
Somebody handled him.
right, and so that in that instance, I don't feel like we've forgiven anything about him. Um, but the thing that I want to be salient across this is that knowing this person had a crisis, mental health crisis, you know, um, which means breaking outside of the norm of what society would expect under the circumstances. and doing things that we would consider reckless and dangerous. Like you're talking about decision making, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a person's in crisis, they are limited to or are influenced by the chemistry in their body. Whether it be testosterone as a chemistry, whether it be adrenaline as a chemical, cortisol, um, and you just go down the list, dopamine, all these chemicals that are acting on your perception of the world. It does constitute decision making. It does create the foundation for decision making. It does not absolve them of the consequences of those decisions.
Can I pause you right there, brother? Because I think hearing you speak is where I realized I didn't articulate my words correctly.
Okay.
My main issue is not necessary is that people will make bad decisions and then utilize mental health,
As
whether it
a
be
reason why they did it.
yeah,
And I'm
but
saying that may
no.
go ahead.
I'm not saying that can't be the issue. My main issue is they will say mental health is an excuse, or it may be the action. Let's say it is the action. Because mental health is the cause of their action, society, I see, is starting to try to absolve people of the consequences because mental health is the cause of that decision that they made. And that is where I am like,
Well,
I don't give a fuck.
an insanity plea has always been in the court system, especially
No,
for
no,
especially. Hold
I'm
on, let
taking
me
it
say
off of
this.
Dahmer. Yeah, I'm
No,
taking it
I'm not
off
even
of
talking
Dahmer. I'm
about
just saying
Dahmer. I'm
regular
not talking
life.
about Dahmer. I'm not
Okay.
talking about Dahmer. I'm talking about the concept of an insanity plea has been a part of this society since as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
So mental health being the impetus to heinous acts, to socially immoral acts, um, is not a new concept. What's new is that it's gotten outside of the white community. Right. So now there is a space where we are tending to normalize mental health. That's what the purpose of the podcast was. The hopes that people would actually seek help because they got people that's locked up. I know when I did a panel years ago with the sheriff of DeKalb County, he told me 85% of the people in DeKalb County Jail had diagnosed conditions that needed medication. 85% of the total population.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guess how much of the population is black? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we have had mental health issues in our community
Oh yeah.
that are undiagnosed, untreated, and people are doing ridiculous, heinous, outrageous acts. That people are breaking down in crises. People are fighting with no regard to life. And now that we see it and now that we know what it is, I'm definitely not an advocate for people not having consequences for their actions, but I don't want there to be any miscommunication that we have issues that are driving some of the major social issues and economic issues that are untreated in our community.
No,
So,
I agree with
old
that.
man, my old boy that's cheating on his girl. I mean, he could have went out like Eric Benet. He had a sex addiction. Okay, are you getting treated for it? The fact that you may have thought to think of sex addiction indicates that you may have another malady that
Yeah.
that ultimately will get treated in treatment. But I want you to understand that anytime you step outside of what is in line with society, because that's what most maladies are based on. Like if we were a killer, think about it like this: when America was coming up, they had the Wild Wild West, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they were diagnosing these people that were out there shooting people and going across the Western expansion? No, there was no diagnosis for that.
Yeah.
And
So it is based on society, where society sits. Sam, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, like, I think, looking at it from a standpoint of, people that are undiagnosed people doing things that are in prison and those type of things. I think that's a good argument for, a good argument for mental health, the importance of it. But at the same time, I think I look at it less from a criminal standpoint. I look at it from a like a I'm from a Ben Simmons standpoint. I look at it from a like, I'm getting paid a couple hundred million, and I don't like the team I'm on. And instead of playing, I'm gonna say, you know what? This is not good. This is not a good place for me. And look, granted, I get it. Regular people sometimes, have have the similar problems, workplace issues. You don't like your manager, but we don't get to not go. And I think looking at that play out, you're just trying to figure out how much of this is like mental health and how much of this is, nigga, I don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just
Yeah.
don't want to deal with this. And I think that that's another part that's being played out, because what's going to happen, I'm just talking about like what happens as a result of certain people taking advantage of the need for mental health. Because there was a big push for mental health services, for mental health time, for mental health days, those type of things. And then you see somebody to sign a ridiculous contract, decide, you know what, my mind just ain't there. Kyrie, same thing. You know, all this stuff is happening in the world. I don't want to play basketball today. And it's like you start to see that, and you were asking yourself, like, okay, yes, Kyrie, you could be going through something. I'm not saying that there's not a mental component to that, but you have to, like, I think from the people outside looking in, they're just like, how much of that is just that he just want to stick it to the man? How much of that he just want to like make $1 million and don't work? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, to be honest with you, that's more so where I'm at with the like mental health versus accountability. It's like, are people are there some individuals out here abusing mental health to the point where normal people like me and you won't get the sympathy that we need for the type of stuff that we go through? That's kind of my like my space when it comes to this conversation.
Can I just gotta say this real quick too, and this might be the one that get people pissed off. But in my house, I say, all right, we look at physical. You can say a person's physically strong. You can say a person's physically weak. Why is it? And this is questions for Mikhail. Why is it wrong for a person to say, "Hey, man, he or she is mentally weak"?
Ask that question again another way.
If Why can't I say somebody's like soft or mentally weak based on their actions? If mental health is, if you can be strong mentally, why the fuck you can't be weak
Weak
mentally?
mentally.
Well, I don't really subscribe to what's weak and strong per se, me personally, because I think that there's always a breaking point for everybody. It's like when you go to the gym, if you hold a weight up, just hold it. It could be a 2 pound weight, right? And eventually, what's going to end up happening is your grip is going to get less tight. Your arm is going to start dropping. Your shoulder's going to start hurting. So it's not that people are weak or strong. It's more about what's resilient, the resilience level. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we are engineered for stress. But when the stress gets to be too much, that's when we go into crisis. And I think we also need to kind of define, those moments. You know what I mean? Because in those moments, those are just where the stress is too high. Those are acute
Mhm.
situations. But the people that like the dominants and stuff like that, those are personality disorders. Those are
Okay.
persistent
Yeah.
issues. Like if you know somebody that makes bad decisions all the time, that's a persistent issue that needs to be dealt with. And we need to discover what disorder it is so that we can properly treat it. But if we're just talking about acute issues, meaning, on the moment, in that moment, that person made the worst decision, because it was high stress and their resilience wasn't as high as it needed to be to make the right one.
Okay, Mikhail, since you're our therapist now, I'm not letting you off the hook today. So you've ever sat in front of something, because you work programs, you work DFACs, you worked a lot of different things. Have you ever sat in front of somebody that's like, this motherfucker is bullshitting the
Well, there's a
whole
what is it? Is
system?
I think it's called well, if you're saying that, I think that they're full of shit,
No, yeah, like
or
literally,
Yeah.
okay,
I
because
mean,
you
yeah,
you
you
talk
call
about you
you
work for programs that may be alcohol,
yeah,
people are saying that they may have an alcohol problem,
right,
and the reality is they have no alcohol problem. They're a part. They decided, I'm gonna join this program so I can get a slap on the wrist, or I'll decide, you know, I I don't want to get in
yeah. I mean,
trouble, so I'm gonna say, I feel depressed. Like, let's be real. I know I've seen it, and so I'm
I'm
trying
gonna
to see from your standpoint. Have you
so let me
dealt
answer
with
this
anybody you're
question.
like, you full of shit?
I'm gonna answer this question in two parts. What is it? Munchausen's disease? I think I'm saying it wrong.
Munchausen syndrome.
Syndrome, where
Yeah.
it's basically you fake an illness.
Mm-hmm.
You faking an illness. The concept of even wanting to fake an illness is a disorder. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like if someone is trying to fix their situation by taking on an illness, whether it be mental illness, all the way down to folks to be like, I got cancer, I can't go to work, I had chemo today, like that kind of shit. That's
Yeah.
a disorder. There's something wrong with you. And if there's an acute case of it where, hey, I'm just trying to, slide in, get a couple of, group sessions in so I can get
Yeah.
my
I'm just
license
here so
back.
I don't get fined.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I have to ask what else is off in your life, because I found that when you get to the place where you're making decisions to skate accountability, that means you're not really owning what you did wrong. Like you just I'm no, don't get it twisted. I like a discount like everybody else. I like it,
Yeah.
to be like it. But I'm saying that if I just got pulled over for DUI and they put me in a diversionary program, and I know damn well I drink, and this ain't the first time I've drunk and drove by my, like, it's
Yeah.
you feel what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, if you get to that place and you just like, yeah, I'm gonna just get this thing. So yeah, you're not taking advantage of the program. You're not really realizing that, number one, drinking and driving is pretty fucking bad. Because even if you're a little buzzed, you ain't sober. That's just the reality. So the question is, I've been drinking and driving so much, because what's the chances you get pulled over? I've been drinking and driving so much that I finally got caught. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing out of my mind is, how can I get out of this so I can get back to living my life the way I wanted to live? You feel me? Like, that should tell you that something's got a hold of you.
Yeah.
Because every week we see something on the news. If you watch it every day, and I don't anymore, if you watch it on the news every day, somebody done drove down the highway wrong, somebody got killed, somebody car burst into fire as it drove through a building. Like, it's just like, it's out of control.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there is a case to be made that person may actually, that's trying to get out of it, may actually be exhibiting some of the behaviors that say, yeah, this person actually does have a problem.
Man, Mikhail's giving us that
He
DSM
danced.
book junk.
He danced.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Look,
say it like this.
I'm a
Oh, go
lover of
ahead,
the
Sam.
DSM. I love the fact that that we have diagnoses out here, but eventually, sometimes we got called bullshit, right?
I'm
And
sure.
the reality is, and this is what I'm gonna say, the reason, because Mikhail is so educated, man. He's a really,
Oh yeah.
really educated brother. Okay. And that DSM book has a diagnosis for every damn thing under the sun, right? Because the mind is what the mind is. But at the same time, I think that it's clearly, and as a mental health advocate, I hate having this type of conversation,
Mhm.
but there is some level of mental uh mental health being taken advantage of, and it's
Hold
annoying to
on.
see.
I just realized something. Like, okay, let me say this. What we're talking about is the front end of the conversation, which is, you know, the person is claiming mental health issues, and they're not. We're not getting to the consequence. The consequence is me calling them on a bullshit. They do get called on their bullshit. Like if I'm sitting across from somebody and they say some outlandish shit, the type of therapist I am, the way I speak, the way my voice as a therapist is, I'll call you on your bullshit and make you eventually admit, all right, yeah, that was some bullshit. In that moment, we've had the psych break that's needed for you to start to heal. You know, they always tell you in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step is admitting that you have the problem. But part of the journey of getting the person to the admission is calling them on their bullshit, is them having the consequence, you know, whether it be DUI, jail, things of that nature. You got to have those consequences to make the brain stop going down this path.
Yeah.
And so I think that they are actually hand in hand. I do believe mental health issues exist, whether it be immoral stuff, like if you married and you cheating on your spouse. I mean, what's that about? And if you're unhappy, how come you're not assertive enough to tell somebody that you're unhappy, or to leave that relationship before you start doing things that you have to apologize for? Like, what is it that makes it okay to want to hurt people just because you ain't getting your way? That doesn't sound mentally sound.
Well, hold on. I would say this though. Like, does it? Like, what if I just wanted to cheat though? You get what I'm saying? Like, what?
Then I gotta say,
I'm being. Hold on.
Yeah.
What if, like, yeah, I'm married and I decide I just want to cheat? You get what I'm saying? Like,
I ain't going through nothing. I just want some
I ain't going through anything. There's
Yeah.
no real issue there.
I would
just wanna cheat.
argue that you probably enjoy chaos a little too much.
I would disagree with that.
No, I don't, because what else can come from it? Outside of the actual act, there's nothing that's done in the dark that don't come to light.
But
that's
to
what
some
life
people,
teaches. That's what teaches everybody. At some point in your, considering the conversations we've had, everything that's done in the dark, everything comes to light.
I agree with that, but I also agree. Yeah. I'm with Sandra, where it's like we'll take it off men and women. Sometimes people will just do an act that is just because they want to do it, not necessarily they.
Well,
they,
I mean,
they
you're talking about
going through
hedonistic lifestyle. You're not being honest about who you are. Like if you just out there and you just want to fuck off, cool. But you know what I found is the people that want to fuck off, that have not accepted their lifestyle, are the ones that are most judgmental of those that do. And that's what ends up becoming the chaos, because it comes out because nothing's done in the dark. They won't come to light, and that creates chaos. I've always told people to be true to who they are. That is the most clean, carefree, peaceful life that you could ever have. Anytime you have to create a secret, it creates a sickness.
Just from my standpoint, it's like, but where is the line between where is the line between the mental health and the, okay, I just wanted to do that shit? You get what I'm saying?
I mean,
if
you want to do hood rat shit with your hood rat friends,
exactly. Where is that line? It's like, I just want to do
it. It ends at where society says no, because if what you want to do crosses the line of society's rules, you are now, a ward of the state. Society owns you. Now, whether that means from a civil standpoint, meaning like, if your shit get blown up in the public eye, and then, that's what they call cancel culture. There's a consequence for you doing the fuck you wanted to do, how you wanted to do it, outside the scope and scheme of society. If it's something legal, you become a ward of the state, and now you're a slave under the 13th Amendment if you black. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So,
but
wait. So anytime somebody does something that is viewed as bad or not normal,
you are putting yourself at risk. You are putting yourself in harm's way.
And so
either social,
that's
the mental break.
That's fucked up.
You are putting that goes
I
against
advocate for mental
self-preservation.
health,
so so how
for mental
so
health
how and I know you're
exercises and
saying
stuff,
there's
but there are certain
consequences.
things that I just can't.
Right.
I'm just not
What
rolling.
what he's saying is, hold on. He's saying that it is a mental aspect to all of this. What we're saying is like, okay, so how do you hold that person accountable? There are consequences in society. Yes, we
Mhm.
get that, but there's a lot of things that happen that there, in my opinion, the society. There's yes, it's outside of what you would consider social norms, but it doesn't bear any real space for the person to actually look at themselves in the mirror and say, "Hey, look, you need to straighten up." You know what I'm saying? Like it if you always have that mental health crutch that you can lean on,
Mhm.
then there it can create a space where you're never having to deal with the person who you are. You get what I'm saying? Or
Not
the
create.
decisions
It's
that you made,
created already.
or yeah, is what I'm saying. And so it's
I
like,
mean, so if you co-sign and you sign up for, hey, I got mental health issues going on. That's why I did what I did. Then the follow-up should be, so what are you doing about it? Right? Are you getting help? Are you on medication? What level of care do you feel like you need? Um, are you okay right now? Do you feel safe right now? Are you comfortable having this conversation? Like, take them down the path of what mental health care is and see where they unhook at. Right? If they unhook at, oh man, I don't want to take no medication. Guess what? That person it's full blown consequence.
eh,
Like they just take it off, and that's where it should happen at. But I can't forget my professional affiliation. Like, I can't just disregard someone admitting that they're going through something, and I can't be like, I don't think you're going through shit. Like, you can't do I can't
That's
do
I
that.
don't think that's what what
that's not
Tim
what I'm
Back said
saying.
though.
I mean, if I'm calling
Like,
somebody on bullshit,
do,
that's what I'm doing.
do you
I'm
see
saying
what
I don't believe.
the comment where it says, "Would you rather ask for forgiveness than you ask for permission?" But that's perfect example of what I'm trying to get at here. Because when you've thought it out, there's like situations sometimes where it's like premeditated fuck nigga shit. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's premeditated. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me except for the fact that I want to do that. You get what I'm saying? And yes, there may be some consequences on the back end of it, but it's like, if I always have that crutch of, oh yeah, my mental ain't right, then how can I be held accountable? And that's what I'm saying. Like,
But I'm
that's
saying, the accountability to whom? All right. So if you're saying, hey man, I just wanted to go fuck off, whatever, you gonna go do that with people that are down with that. Like, if I wanted to go smoke crack, I'm not gonna go down to the Georgia State House and sit in the middle of the floor in the lobby. I'm gonna go sit with other people that want to smoke crack. Like, who's the consequence there? I'm talking about the aftermath of what you want to do. And you referenced the DSM, but that's what this shit is. If what you want to do creates issues and challenges with your support circle, your family, your friends, things of that nature, that or society, where you could be legally in trouble and you still want to do that shit, that goes against self-preservation. That goes against you wanting to live. And anytime somebody has a position of not wanting to live, isn't that considered an acute mental health crisis? It's
I,
just different levels to this shit, and it's not permission versus forgiveness. That in itself is kind of a slight. It's a technique of somewhat of a manipulation
yeah, it's a
that society
manipulation
that
tactic.
is what
And
society has taught us to be like. But that's not part of our culture. Like, when I was in sales in my life before this, absolutely everything was ask for forgiveness, not permission.
yeah, you take it as
Because
far as you can,
yeah,
get as
because
much
you
sales
didn't
as you
want the
can.
no. You
Yeah.
don't want
yeah.
to deal with no. And that's what I'm saying. Like, the and I hate to say it, but that's parallel to like a rape mentality. You know, give me that pussy instead of
Man,
can I have some pussy? Like, it's
Mikhail, I got to stop you
Man, I
there.
ain't mean to, I
I
ain't
got
mean
to
to take
stop you
that
there,
as.
dog. Like,
I mean, when does
I
it
didn't.
stop? When
I
does it
got to
stop?
stop you there, dog.
And when does
You
that
taking this
stop?
to the moon, okay?
I'm taking
You
it,
are
but I
taking
want you
this
to
to
say.
the
Remember,
moon.
Warren, I said there's different levels to it.
There's
Like
We
this,
not at okay. Well,
when we
bring the
describe
levels
mental,
down.
hold on. When we
Let's stay
break
on
that
Earth.
level, I'm trying to draw the line to it. Mental health issues is that, so for example, people talk about narcissism. Narcissistic personality disorder is not narcissism. Narcissism is in every human being, right? Is literally like a volume switch. The volume switch goes from 0 to 100. When you get past, say, 40, like in that 40-50 range, I would argue that that's when the personality disorder piece becomes more prevalent. All right. So that's what I'm saying. That's that very statement, asking for permission, asking for forgiveness versus permission on a 0 to 100 scale is that extreme example that I gave you. So that's my point. Like, you can't just adopt these, epitaphs about how to move in life without considering, is this on the path of self-preservation? Is this going to be something that puts my life at risk, or put my family at risk, or put my friends at risk, my livelihood at risk? And if I'm going to make a decision against all of that, am I really in my right mind? And that's what I'm posing back to you. It's not that we're looking for an excuse. Mental health is not the your wingman. You dig what I'm saying?
for
Like,
some
it,
it is.
Yeah,
but that's a sickness for me.
For some it is.
That's
For
a sickness to
some,
me.
mental
But that's
health
a sickness to me.
is what they bring with them to the party when they decide they want to goddamn fuck off.
Right.
Mental
And I'm
health
saying
is
that
what they
that's
bring
a
to the
disease to
party when
me.
they decide they want to, they decide they want a piece of candy they can't pay for.
And I
Mental health is what they bring to the party. It's like, and
or
and
yell at somebody,
because of
cuss
that,
somebody out.
or mental health, what you bring to the party when you want to get paid 100 million and not get on the floor, like, or you don't like your coach, or you don't like
again,
all of
I'm
that.
arguing that there's some other disorder that's involved that will allow that to be the mindset. You have to understand what I'm saying to you. Like, there are personality disorders, and then there's emotional disorders. And emotional disorders are the ones that people are familiar with, like depression and anxiety, general anxiety, OCD, stuff like that. Um, and those are really based on how you perceive the world, right? The personality disorders are I'm sorry, the emotional disorders are the ones that you would rather say are how you feel the world sees you. Personality disorder is how you want the world to see you.
Okay.
So if I'm a sociopath, I'm a heavy manipulator. If I'm a borderline personality disorder, I don't want you to ever leave me. Like, I'm active in creating this thing. The people on the emotional side, it's happening to them. You see what I'm saying? And that's the difference between them in terms of how they interact in the world. So I'm not saying that Ben Simmons is on the personality disorder side,
Okay.
but that feels very.
How do we bridge the gap? Because somebody like Ben Simmons, I'm gonna give you an example. Somebody like Ben Simmons, because of him, a lot of other NBA players probably won't get the leeway from a mental standpoint. So where does mental health, or the mental health field, or how do we balance out holding people accountable while also respecting the mental health aspect of what we're going through as far as the society is concerned? So it's like,
It's
that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. I'm
no,
trying
I
to
get it. I get what you're saying.
I have to join
Honestly,
into that. Can you add on to this? When can we call somebody mentally lazy too?
well. So let's
But answer Sam's question first, please. I'm sorry.
yeah. So to Sam's point, to resolve that issue is for us to become at least better educated in what these disorders are. Like, everybody knows what COVID is, right? Like, but we didn't at one point. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't even call it COVID-19. I think it was, what was it? It was something else.
The
SARS-CoV-2.
vid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we have become very familiar with this condition, this disease. And that's what I would argue need to happen in terms of mental health. Like the more we talk about this stuff, the more people are going to get a little bit more familiar with the symptoms, what it looks like, how you can be functioning in society and still have a personality disorder. um, most, I shouldn't say most, if you think about the CEOs of the major corporations, how, what type of disorder do you think could be sublimated into an executive in a corporation? You got to have somebody that can disconnect emotionally, right? You got to have somebody, because you got to fire people sometimes. Sometimes if you're doing international business, you may be involved in some things that are relating to coups where people are dying. Like you got to be able to emotionally disconnect.
Yeah.
So what personality disorder falls in that line?
Like,
so and it's a volume switch. Yeah, 0 to 100, right? When it gets really above 40, it becomes uncomfortable and they start looking Dahmerish. That's what I'm saying. Like you have to understand what this stuff looks like socially, personally, for you to be able to recognize it. Because even those that, and I don't know what the symptoms of mental laziness are. You know what I mean? Like, is it just
what is mental laziness?
Is it willful ignorance? Is that what we're saying? Or are we talking about? What are we talking
about? Define mental laziness.
Right.
I don't know. Because this is a follow-up question. All right. Because we went back to when you said the thing about resiliency. I said if you can call somebody mentally strong, or if there's mental health issues, if health
is the way
in most cases, you can look at it.
It's like you can be strong physically.
You can look at a person. Oh, he's strong.
Yeah,
he's weak. Why are we not able to do that? Or why is it not able to be established to whereas, okay, I apologize for this. These are not the views of Sam and Mikhail.
I think they know that.
I mean,
I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Kevin Love came out and said he had anxiety sometimes, and DeMar DeRozan came out and said he has anxiety sometimes playing basketball in a basketball game. He told of the story where he ran to the back, his chest was caving in and stuff like that. I come from the school of Mamba mentality when it comes to basketball. To me, he wouldn't have said that if he was on Kobe Bryant's team. Because at the end of the game, I'm not passing you the ball because you just said to me that you aren't mentally strong enough for that moment. Why is it when we see scenarios, and that's an NBA scenario, but in different things in life, I can't look at a person and say, hey, man, you soft, or mentally, you're soft. As opposed, or that person acknowledge that, hey, you know what, I'm mentally weak. And if that person can say that, guess what? We can, once a person admits what they have or what they're dealing with, we can move up, as opposed to what Sam was alluding to earlier about using mental health as a crutch. I feel that without certain things being put in place, we're consistently giving people excuses and absolving them of accountability. That's the question that we're trying to get.
From what I'm hearing, here. I'm trying to. Yeah, I would like to translate what I'm hearing you say, Warren, because I think it stems from this idea now that maybe society is just getting a lot more mentally, less mentally resilient.
Maybe, I like that.
Maybe society is in a space where we're a lot less, because I mean, you gave DeMar DeRozan an example. I gave Ben Simmons. My sister calls me nonstop about Naomi Osaka. She's just like, why is she so fucking weak? Why is she always so, she's playing, and we're using sports because sports is competitive. It takes a lot to be a really, really good athlete and to be at the top of your game. So that's probably why we're using sports. But I get calls about Naomi Osaka. What was it? Gabby? Who's the gymnast?
Gabby Douglas.
No, not Gabby Douglas. The other one.
But we old.
Simone Biles. Simone Biles. She for the Olympics, she didn't do one of her final meets or whatever for the Olympics because of some mental health issues that she was going through. And you heard people calling her mentally weak. And so it's like where we're at right now, Mikhail, as a society, would you say we're paying more attention to the mental, but are we less resilient from a mental standpoint?
I just think we're more judgmental of things we don't understand.
Some of these boys soft out here. Once again, this is Warren Pettis' view, not
So
of
now,
Sam and
Warren, no,
Mikhail's out here, man.
Warren,
Because I'm
Warren.
tired.
Let me say this.
I'm
Let me
done.
say this, Warren. Let me say this, Warren. United States, we are really, really good. And this is a Mikhail Roger point of view, not Warren or Sam. United States, we're really good at knowing how to kill people, nations, soldiers, animals. I mean, if you want to know how to kill it, we do it. And we have the military for it, right? And even in our military, there's levels to it. Every soldier that signs on the dotted line and goes to a MEPS facility is taught how to be a soldier, all the way down to how to shoot, accuracy. You gotta pass the accuracy test. Even if you're just gonna be a cook, even if you're gonna just provide food, if you're gonna be in healthcare, you all have to learn how to take a life, right? But there are levels to it. And in the Navy, they have this thing called a BUDS program. And then BUDS is basic underwater demolition school, and it's the first step in becoming a Navy SEAL. They have an 80% attrition rate. So 80% of the people that actually go in quit. They can't handle it.
Yeah.
But they're still trained killers.
Yeah.
Even though they couldn't become that 20% SEAL, they are all killers. So when you say, hey man, this joker is mentally soft, and we have to figure out exactly what that means, because as far as I'm concerned, everybody in the world is capable of doing anything they've seen anybody in the world doing. What exercises did you take to achieve this mental strength that you perceive that you have? Because that's all that, when you say weak or strong, you can put it in the context of gym, working out in the gym. If this guy comes in, he's a $125. Can he bench press 325 pounds? Probably not. Probably not. But to get to be able to bench press 325 pounds, he's going to put on about 60 pounds of muscle over time. So he had to work out to get to that strength. So when you say that these people are mentally soft, what is your benchmark? Who's your most mentally strong? And I'm using quote marks because this is your vernacular. Who's the most mentally strong person you know?
No.
No, you name it.
Oh, it would be a couple people, my godparents that lived through the segregation era, telling me stories of the things that they went through and still were able to be successful in school and things of that nature.
Sure.
Hell, even we talked about the issues with my father, but my father going through the situation with my mom, trying his best to raise two boys.
Sure.
Hell, the people that I know who have experienced a lot of rough shit.
Let's pause. Let's pause on that. I want it to be somebody that you're personally connected to. Do you consider yourself mentally weaker than those individuals that you just named?
Mentally weaker than those individuals I just named? I would say the only person I would feel in my heart, if you put a gun to my head, I would say I'm mentally weaker than my godfather, just because
I had to put a gun to your head, though.
Yeah.
So I want you to understand.
Because for me, like in my heart of hearts, I feel like, now don't get me wrong, the SEALs you just talked about earlier, if they came up and was like, hey, that boy Warren soft, I'd be like, compared to y'all, you right. So let's get that straight here. I ain't
Well, I
walking
mean,
around
so
here.
You ain't
Hey,
out
I'm
here
an
trying
E-man
to.
and all
but
this other
let's be,
stuff.
but
There's some
let's
cats
let.
out here who can be like, hey, that boy
But
wants
I want
something.
you to
I'm like, you know
understand,
what?
Warren.
Yeah.
Warren, what I'm saying is there's a difference between judgment and discernment.
Yeah.
And the problem is in society is that we are becoming more judgmental about mental health, and thus it looks like people are soft because that's the quick answer. That's the easy response.
Mm.
Is it not possible for them to be soft?
Hold on,
Shit.
we're talking about. So discernment is what you just said about the Navy SEALs, right? The discernment is what you just said about your godfather. You understand what I'm saying? Judgment is where you don't have a bar for that person. You're just saying what you're perceiving they're going through without any other information. That's
Okay.
judgment. And more of that's going on because we're in a society that's short on information. We just jump to it. We see a tweet, we see this, and we just, oh, that must be that. That must be that.
No, I'm with you
And
there.
and
Hey,
so that's why I feel, we have to be careful. And I want society to at least see mental health as a real, ever-present thing. It's not so much that person's soft. We just don't know what condition that they're suffering from. We didn't have that understanding of it to
I
know that that's what they're going
knew
from.
Mikhail would get there. I knew he'd get there. I knew
Because he been
I knew he was
dancing.
gonna, bro. I knew he was gonna fucking get there. And it's crazy because when we do these shows, man, like we have to challenge each other. We have to have these conversations in a way that's challenging. Me and Mikhail feel very similar about things
Yeah.
normally, right? But in this space, I felt like I had to challenge you, Mikhail, so we could get to this point. Because Ben Simmons, we've been talking about Ben Simmons. I found out today, Stephen A. Smith was just like, yo, that brother came up to me and we had a heart-to-heart kind of conversation, and there was some things going on. We don't necessarily have to talk about it, but much respect to that brother. These are people that were
Just more
on
stuff going
TV
on. Yeah.
that was like, XYZ. Simone Biles, I think her grandmother had passed away.
Mhm.
And we didn't know that at the time. She was just like, my mental's not right. I don't want to go do that event, whatever the case may be. And everybody's like, well, she could be the most decorated gymnast ever type thing, and everyone's trying to figure that out. But she's just like, I'm not about to go over here and twist and do 3 jumps and maybe break my fucking neck. Like, all of that is a part of what it is. It's like we don't know the half of what the fuck people are going through.
Yeah. What's my girl that run track?
Shikari.
Shikari.
Yeah, Shikari.
That's another
Richardson.
example of
Yeah,
somebody that is to me, she's evidence of when you push yourself when you should have took a break.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, she hasn't properly grieved her loss. In my humble opinion, but she tried to show up and be, I'm every woman,
Superwoman. Yeah.
when she should have just, chilled out, took some time to grieve properly. And therefore she wouldn't have had the opportunity to say crazy stuff during interviews or actually get caught up in different things. So we have examples of what happens when you try to John Henry through a situation versus, taking a step back and reflecting on what's real. The only thing good came out of COVID, it made people think about, whoa, what the fuck am I doing? This life here is I need a reset. Like, this.
I think Dave Chappelle said this, right? He said COVID, like, in an instant, because we go through life, we kind of just going through the motions and doing all this other shit. But he was like, in an instant, you had to deal with all the decisions you made at once.
Yeah.
Whether it be the house that you stay in,
That's right,
the car that you have, the wife that you have, the children, what you have,
lifestyle you
the
had.
lifestyle you had, within an instant, you had to deal with all of the decisions you made, and you had to be in them.
Look at it. Gucci went from the value of $1,000 a bag to $0. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about fashion.
Wanted that shit.
Nobody wanted that shit
until them stimulus checks came.
I mean,
you know what? You know what the stimulus checks went? Well, this is another episode. Stimulus checks went to in our community went
Mhm.
to purchasing weapons.
Yeah, purchasing
That's what.
weapons and
So
seeing.
and that's why they're trying to outlaw him now. But you ain't hear that from me.
He getting in there.
But,
Hotel
but,
bag.
no, we ain't not going. We not even going there. What I'm gonna say is this, man. I think that's why it's important for us to have these type of conversations, man. Because we started off this conversation talking about how soft people are mentally, and kind of the issue with mental resilience and the overplaying of mental health in our society. And there's still some ways that we have to go, but like
To
Mikhail
understand
says,
it.
yeah, to understand it, to understand what's going on, and to understand, like, okay, there are times people are going to play up mental health to get away with things, but even that says something about them mentally. Even that says something about them mentally. And I think that, there have been some people that have been saying that, yeah, we focus on mental health a lot based on like the disorders and all this other stuff, but we need to start focusing on the health of the brain,
Yes.
the
That
health
part.
of we need to start working on, okay, now we know we know that mental health impacts us. Now what are we doing in our everyday lives to ensure that our brains are as healthy as they need to be? And that's another conversation, but at the same time, I think it comes into this conversation to say, hey, look, it's not only okay to be aware of mental health, but we have to understand how to build up our mental resilience, how to build ourselves up so that our brains are not functioning at a lower level or on empty, that kind of thing.
Right. So when bad things happen, we don't fall off and
Yeah.
make bad decisions.
I'm gonna let Warren have the last word here because he was the one that came up with this one, and I just think that maybe he has a little different perspective. We'll see. Let's hear what your final thoughts are, Warren, before we wrap.
Well, first I'm going to say, well, R.I.P. Coolio, by the way, man. R.I.P.
R.I.P. to
He had some
Coolio,
classic
man.
tracks back in
Yes,
the day.
sir.
Shout out to him. That was on my spirit. But in regards to mental health first, accountability. Mikhail made some amazing points that I will think about. But as opposed to calling people mentally soft, I'll just say some people lack mental resiliency versus others in certain areas. I do feel that people are using mental health as a crutch, but now I understand how they're using mental health as a crutch. Mikhail stated earlier that you need to ask follow-up questions about, what are you doing about where you're affected at and mentally with your health? What are you
Right.
doing about it? So going forward, I won't just jump out the gate assuming or judging. I will look for discernment, but also the judgment will come if you're not doing anything about building yourself up mentally. If you're just staying in that place and using it as an excuse why this continues to happen, why that continues to happen, then yes, I will call you mentally weak. But if you're going through something, but if you're going through something and you're strengthening your brain, your mentality each and every day, even if you're at, let's say, on a scale of 0 to 100, let's say this person is at a 1, but mentally they're going to the gym every day. Hey, man, you strong in my book. So those are my closeout thoughts.
Oh,
I just want
okay.
to make
I'm
sure
just,
you're working on yourself every day.
I would say this before we wrap. I love this is actually as it shows you how much Warren values mental resilience, and that's the reality of it. I think Warren would like for more people to be more mentally resilient, and I think that that's a good thing. It's something that you should want for society. It's something that we should want for ourselves,
Yeah,
and it
for
is a
sure, for sure.
part
And I
of
feel
our.
we all can get there
Yeah, it's
if we
it's
put
a
in the
part of
work.
our overall health. It's a
Yeah,
part of
if
our
we put in the
overall health.
work.
And so I will. I mean, I don't agree with everything you just said.
Go to that mental gym, y'all.
But what I will say,
Mikhail, teach them some tactics, some exercises they can do to go to that mental gym every day.
But what Warren is doing is almost like fat shaming and
Oh my God.
it's like mental health shaming, which is it. Sometimes it works.
I'm not
But
doing
for
that.
some, hey, look, bro. Sometimes it works for some. All right, I'm just saying what I'm saying. But you know, it is what it is. I value mental resilience as well. I think that it's a good trait for people to have. And you know, I appreciate this conversation. I think we did a good job of kind of breaking down, and to be honest, we did a good job of pushing each other. And so, Mikhail, hey man, you never really like, you can never really argue with somebody that's trained. And
Oh,
Mikhail is definitely
I know I sound ignorant talking to him
one
on
of
this
those
one.
he is trained. And so, like, even with me trying to like push him off his spot, he stayed on his spot, and that's all we can ask for, right?
Oh man.
With that being said, man, this is a fun conversation, guys. We're gonna wrap, man. All of our information is You Good Bro Podcast. Is on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and You Good Bro Pod on Twitter. I am Sam Dupe, and I am good.
Hey, I'm Del Mikhail, and I am good.
I'm Warren, and I'm good. Don't cancel me.
Just like that, man. We are gone.
Out.
Drone.